What's up, guys? Welcome to a new episode of FemFlex Friday. Today we have a very, very interesting topic from my perspective, and that is how bodybuilding can be salvation, or how bodybuilding can be hope to somebody, because sometimes we forget the trials and tribulations we go through in order to get on a stage, right? We forget what's behind. But bodybuilding is more just a sport itself. Bodybuilding is an idea, is a concept. It's the force that animates the whole movement behind this, right? In order to exemplify this topic, we have a new star in the women's bodybuilding division, Angie Yo. Angie, welcome to our show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. And Angie has had a beautiful career that I had a privilege to hear, and she's here to share it with you guys. She just won Chicago Pro on her pro debut, right? 2022 Chicago Pro Women's Bodybuilding Division, which is absolutely amazing, right? In your pro debut, when you came in an amazing shape.
First bodybuilding show.
Right, and that's the thing. You turn pro in women's physique,
Yes.
correct? And then you go on in a big show, the Chicago Pro, and you win decisively. Like, it was amazing.
It was hands down. That's the winner.
They showed me a perfect score.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Coming to me like, have you seen the results? And I hadn't yet, and my jaw dropped. Talk about like truly like knowing this is where you belong. Like there's no way for that to happen. It's never happened to me
No
before.
question that you belong, because I know our viewers, your video, crazy how many people you brought to women's bodybuilding, just like in the views. I'm not sure where we are now, but I know at the time it was like, I'm looking at the numbers and I'm like, whoa, is this correct? So I know it's way over 100,000
We
views.
have really made a splash with just that one piece.
Yeah.
Like just that one. It was a video of my performance from the Chicago Pro, and that somehow picked up an incredible amount of momentum, and I think because of that, it also landed a lot of other views on everybody else who was there that day.
Well, the word on the street was, there's the new kid in town, right? But we want to hear the story behind your journey, okay? So if you want to take us back a little bit, how were you as your childhood, your teenage times, if you just want to take us there so we see where you're coming.
I mean, I had a great childhood. My mom raised my sister and I. My dad worked in a lab, and he worked a lot. He worked night shift to support us. So my mom was really, really there for both of us. But I mean, we didn't have a lot of money, but we were, I grew up in the same house that they're still living in today. Really, really comfortable. With my parents, and they let me be whoever I wanted to be. And that was kind of hard at times, because the way I was expressing myself was very alternative, and the things I would study was very alternative. And, sometimes as a parent, you're not sure like what kind of influence that's going to have on your child, but my mom never like tried to clip my wings or anything, because she's very religious, and I respect that about her, but that wasn't for me.
That's quite unique that she didn't try to mold you into the religion.
I will never thank her enough for that, because like looking back, it must have been hard, to watch, but at the same time, she just wanted me to be healthy and safe. And at times that was the one thing that she couldn't control, and we couldn't control.
So when you say alternative, what do you?
Well, definitely like your alternative music. I went to a lot of concerts, a lot of shows, studied alternative religions, alternative psychology, sometimes like, I studied the 60s a lot, and like the dynamics in the culture at the time, and things like cult activities, and like what causes people to be into that, or even, like mass murders or things like that. So I was really getting into like the dark side of what people experience and or put upon others and what that was about. So.
And how was this
Yeah.
threading with your teenage time?
I mean, I kind of used it like in my schooling. So if I had a project or something, that's what I would gravitate to. So if I had something that I had to study, I would pick something that I wanted to know about that was like a little bit more interesting to me and kind of, fringe. But I mean, it affected, I mean, I got into like, mostly my outlet was artwork at the time. I wrote a lot. Like I was never without like a notebook and a pen, and that was like my main outlet
So
at the time.
you're a thinker. You thought outside the box. You were not like, you just independent thinker, and it's not like you were easily molded into what society says. Oh, you have to, whether it's religion or politics or whatever. It's or just the light. He also the dark, like
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, my parents grew up in the 60s, and I remember seeing them travel, a little bit around the country, and I was like, well, what is that all about? And just the culture at the time was so just exploding with freedom and different types of experimentation, and I found it like fascinating. It was a way for me to like study the fact that my dad was in the Vietnam War and like what was going on with that at the time, and that helped me connect with maybe some of his experiences and them as young people.
And then as you turn into a teenager, right? I think that this was a time when you were talking about starting to have severe depression episodes, right?
Yeah, that's very hard to talk about. I'd say when I was 13, 14, the best way I can explain it is that I was becoming very disturbed, and there was no reason for it. We had a very simple home life, nothing to cause it, but my chemistry was deteriorating really fast. And as a kid, you're just like a hedon. You don't know how to cope with things, so you find the best way and the quickest ways.
And what was that way for you?
Well, writing got me somewhere, because I couldn't sleep. I had nightmares all the time, daymares even, if I can even express that. The severe depression. I mean, I would try to write through it, but somehow I discovered drugs. I don't even remember. I mean, I think I remember my first time smoking weed, but it turned into the main way that I began to cope. And we're talking lots of hard drugs all the time. And it kind of consumed my life in it. I take responsibility now, for the decisions that I made and the people that I like, I can't believe in my head, I'm like, how did I ever go with them to these places and things? But that seemed to be the way to manage what I was experiencing, because I was literally in survival mode for like almost half a decade, and it was
So
it was like being messed up was better than being unpredictable.
okay.
So if I was on something, at least I knew what I was on, and that way I didn't have to worry what else was going to be happening. And there was not just drugs. My coping mechanisms were serious self-mutilation, serious eating disorders, obviously a lot of drugs, a lot of traveling, and that was.
I can understand psychologically how there was a place to let everything go, because as you said, you know how drugs behave, as opposed to just being on yourself. You don't know what will come out and what kind of thoughts and what kind of compulsive behaviors you will have for no explanation, right? So that would be in all of this. Where did your husband? How did he come into play? Because I know he came into your life quite early, right? How old were you when you met him?
I was 19.
Okay.
Or so, 20.
And you
maybe.
guys are still together.
Yes.
For quite a long time now.
I mean, I met him before we got together. We got together in 2005, but I'd met him many years before, and I honestly just look at my life pre-Jamie and then my whole life after, because there is just that hard divide of like how my life was before and just swimming through and struggling and trying to find myself and then after. You know, like we both kind of came together at a time where both of our very toxic relationships were ending. We had so much in common. Our friendship was super strong. We'd known each other for a couple of years, I think, like when I was like 16 or something like that. It was many years that we'd kind of been running in the same circles, but you know, everybody trusted him. He had such a good reputation. He was so creative. You know, he owned the record label that was in the city. He DJ'd. He ran the best after hours ever. But the trust that was there was the coolest thing, and the friendship that we grew while we were going through some of the hardest points in our life was what built the friendship from like such a great place. And I've never been closer to another human being. Actually, tomorrow will be the 14-year anniversary of the motorcycle accident that we were in. I've almost died with this man. I could not be closer to another human being. So that was that was one of you know, and that was like we got together in 2005. 2008 was the accident, and then we got married in 2009. And that was right around when I was taking bodybuilding more seriously. I got interested in 2006.
I want to know more about this. Was my next question. How did bodybuilding started to come into your life at this point with all these circumstances and the background you presented? And we're going to know more about this after this short commercial break. Back in the studio with Angie O. Angie, we started talking about how bodybuilding started like seeping into your life. How did you start on this path, right?
Well, I think a lot of people started similar to me. They saw a magazine and they picked it up, flipped through the pages, and saw something that they've never seen before. And at the time in my life, I had no healthy role models. You know, I had a lot of like tortured artist types that were helping me understand what I was going through and express what I was going through. But when I picked up that magazine, what I didn't know was that they were going to teach me how to channel all of my pain and make that into a power that I so desperately needed to do. I mean, I remember poring over these pages of Oxygen, and like I would note tab, highlight, and take another notebook and write out things, and then like.
So was it the image of the female or male bodies all together and the carving of that, or the information, or how did it affect you? What part?
Seeing a strong woman as toned and beautiful as that, but with the articles explaining that she had the knowledge, you know, she had studied the nutrition, the training on how to change herself literally from the inside in the healthiest of possible ways, which was totally foreign to me. I was so dirt poor when I was living on my own that I didn't know anything about how to eat, and all of this like kind of reflects back on the alternative religions that I had been studying, and to me this was magic.
So you traded one
Yeah.
high for another, a new high.
Once I found that part.
Once you
yes.
found that part.
When I saw these women, I saw ascended beings. Like you got to understand like where I'm coming from, how much respect I had for this, what the contrast was from my life. And then when I finally saw like a female bodybuilder, I thought she was the highest ascended being. She had controlled every part of her life and her mind and her discipline to create. You know, it's not money. It's not anything. It's not a car. It is your body. It's the only thing you have. And
Yes.
Yeah.
Basically, what it gave you the tools of reclaiming the power over yourself,
Yes.
right? This is what it did. When you can look like that and you have the knowledge to look like that, that means that you finally have power and there's no more depression, that there's no more inexplicable feelings or emotions that will get you, there's no more drugs. You take the power into your own hands, right? By
Yes.
doing this, by eating correctly, by lifting correctly, by changing the way you body. You're in control. It gave you the power that you were lacking at that time in your life, right?
Yeah.
So how did it
Yeah.
go? When did you start
gosh.
competing? Or how did you even think about competing?
Let's see, I got interested in 2006. We had the accident in 08, got married in 09, but right around then was when I was starting to get really serious. And the first year we went to the Arnold, I mean, I didn't have any friends that were into this. I didn't have coaches or like, I didn't know anybody that was into fitness. So this was exclusively my thing to study.
Which is, I think, a great thing.
I was, yeah.
I think it's a great
yeah, it was just me
Yeah.
by myself. But when we went to the Arnold, and we come down the escalator stairs, and there is just a sea of people. And I just had no idea that there were this many of us, that there was like, I'm like, I have found this is my tribe.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I just remember being so freaking happy. Like, and we just, every year we went back for 10 years, each time doing it like a little bit bigger. But I had never like, you know, I'd seen the magazines and maybe, you know, and seen the Arnold, but when I went there, I saw these women in real life. And
So that was your
was-
final push to
what
get
I
on
saw
stage.
was what they were feeling on stage.
Oh, okay. You're attuned to their feelings.
Because I saw the trophies and I saw the ladies, and I remember so clearly thinking, what do I want? It was like my instinct was telling me, what do you want from this? And I was like, I want what she's feeling. Whatever that is, I need to experience. And that was like the very beginning of me like trusting my instincts on how to make decisions about this. So
there
seeing
was
that
the
in-
feeling of being on top of the world. And you were on top of the world when you won your first natural show in
Yes.
figure, right?
Yes.
I think we have a picture. That's how she looked like.
That was 2013.
Your first show, and you
Yes.
won it.
I won novice overall.
But I mean, I
And,
can't
yeah, I won
believe
2
that
divisions that
you
day, yeah.
basically did that all on your own. Look at Linda, look at
Yeah.
the conditioning.
Oh, yeah.
All of the work,
Out of
there
the
were
back room of
muscles,
my
there was
house.
definition, there was everything with no,
gym,
trainer.
no coach, I mean, I was just barely starting to be able to ask people for advice, but it was literally all studying and,
Yep.
you know,
Well, I'm not
home gym.
surprised. I mean, I
gym.
can see that within you. You know, just the story that you've told, it's in you. You know, I mean, you were a
Yes.
writer at an early age. You reached out for information. So I'm not surprised that you realize and recognize that you had it within you, and you just kept it simple. Sometimes people complicate it and they
Yeah.
make it more than it is, and it starts with you. You know, so I think that's awesome. I'm not surprised.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
And then
Yeah.
you turned pro in IFBB, right? In 2020 in
Yeah.
physique. At that point,
Yes.
you have already switched to the next division, right?
I'd spent 5 years in physique, I think, at that point.
Yeah.
So half a decade.
So you got your pro card in, I think we have a picture of that still. Look at that change.
Many years.
5 years
yes.
of dense muscles.
Well,
of
13.
knowledge, and wow.
So 8 years.
8 years.
8 years or so.
It is
Yeah.
beautiful.
That,
And that was the year of
love that
COVID,
picture.
right?
Yes. I mean, wow. That year was 10 months of prep. We actually had planned to do the Chicago Pro and then do the amateur Olympia, because I was like, it's time. I want this in my life. And then was completely devastated by the change of the dates and whatnot. Like, there was no way that I could reach it. My sister was supposed to be getting married. There was no way that I could make it happen. So I was like, I'm in shape. I'm going to go wherever my heart tells me to go. I don't care I don't care what show it is. It doesn't have to, be attached to anything. But we ended up in New Orleans for the Warrior Games, and I won that show overall, which then opened me up for nationals, which is where I won my pro
And so
card.
at this point, no coach.
Yes,
you did
definitely
have a
coaching.
coach. Okay.
Yeah,
But
after that first year, I won 3 in a row on my own, and I was
see.
like,
And then you
this
got a
is deep
coach.
water. We're
This
going to
is
need
very
some help.
meaningful because there's a span of 7 years. So I want to know, between 2013 and 2020, how did bodybuilding replace the old habits, and how did it fill the holes that were left there? So how did that transition happen? 7 years is a long time. It's a beautiful number too.
Yes. The years that even came before that, it was, like me poring over these textbooks and magazines and, eventually online articles.
And how did you
just
stop
being
the
so
drugs? Like,
fascinated.
was it
if
sudden?
I didn't, it was like, this is going to cost me this other thing. Because there was a lot of, if you've never been trying to get off drugs or resist drugs or resist temptation at all, it is in your head, just pounding at you, clawing at you, telling you lies, like being able to manipulate you. And this was the only thing, that I had found. Like, I had never been in such deep meditation as I had been in when I trained. And when I touched that part of my spirit, I could not jeopardize that. It was like, that was the choice that I had to make. And it wasn't perfect. It certainly wasn't. And I learned a lot of lessons along the way, sometimes multiple times. So it wasn't just as simple as that, but I continuously chose myself and to go into myself and to be able to train over things that, deciding to, drink or do drugs that would cost me days and just horrible recovery. And like, that was miserable.
So give us an example. So
Miserable.
you can't train like 24 hours a day. So I know when you train, we get that high, you go to a meditative state, and you can't be preparing for a competition, all year long.
Right.
So, but in your head, like off season, you have the off season, and you have
There
the
was no
contest.
off-season.
So
No,
there was no
off season. Once I started, I took 2 weeks off when I was getting into one of my jobs, because it was like manual labor, outdoor stuff, and I slept for 2 weeks. But other than that, unless we've been on vacation, I love this. So maybe I'll change my training a little bit from time to time, but I will always train. I will train, almost every single day, sometimes more than that. But it really is what keeps my chemistry balanced, and it's like, that's how I'm going to harness, my energy and keep it positive. And as long as I do that, just that once in the day, I'm usually pretty good.
And
I
I love
love
this
the-
about the balance.
I love
and
the
what
way-
you said,
yeah.
balance, because that's so
And harnessing
I don't
the
know there
energy.
was.
Yeah, that's
Balance
just
and
key.
harnessing the energy.
Yeah.
These
Balance
are key
is
words.
really key,
yeah.
and that's where a lot of our athletes, where we will go to one extreme, and then when the competition's over with, and obviously
Yes.
look at you now, you look great. When the contest is over, then if there's no balance, then we go the total opposite direction. So you've basically been able to, like you said, harness and maintain balance.
While you're still healthy, so we're talking about training. I don't think that training going in off season is at any point off. You don't have to stop. It's all about the food, right? That.
Yes, I'd say that's more of it.
Binging and all of that.
Well, I'm like, here's the fun part. Let's add the food back in, see what we can do to recomp. And I'm also a power lifter, so like the aesthetic goals and then the strength goals that help like build the shape that you see. It's like there's that, like the weekend's coming, and I couldn't wait to get back with my team, like those guys have helped me push. Like they're there to like catch me if I fall, like with the weight, literally.
Yeah.
So that's how I was able to really change the most between 2018 and 2020. That was my best growth season ever.
Okay.
This
So
is
your
so
team
beautiful.
and powerlifting and
Yeah.
Okay.
Main Street Barbell.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, that's no question because you're a bodybuilder. When I see the maturity in your muscle, it's obvious that you train hard. You're not afraid to train heavy. And that explains it. Powerlifting.
And very
also.
methodically as well. And
Yes.
then we're going to take a quick break right now, and then I have more questions for you.
You diet down, train hard, and supplement smart for months. When the time comes to step on stage, don't leave your tan to chance. Go with the pros. Pro Tan. #1 worldwide since 1987 and the official sponsor of the Olympia for the last 15 years. Don't step on stage without it. Pro Tan.
Okay, Angie, so you mentioned powerlifting. Did you ever compete in powerlifting too?
Yeah, I've got maybe 5 or 6 meets underneath my belt. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
interesting. So did you competed, and where did you take it?
Well, I mean, I wanted to be as strong as I looked. I thought it was really important to kind of back up the muscle with a few competitions. I mean, I have some state records.
Oh.
Last competition
That's
I
awesome.
benched 248. That almost
that's
broke
enough.
a bigger record.
I know.
Like my bests are 275, 400, 405.
And are you,
So that's
Squat, bench, and deadlift.
okay.
Yeah.
that's
Squat.
awesome.
So your
That's
squat
very
is
impressive.
what?
400.
Wow.
The best I've ever done. Let's say.
Yeah.
You know.
And are you still powerlifting, or you dedicated just to bodybuilding now?
Well, that's kind of an ongoing conversation. But no, I'm definitely not competing in powerlifting right now. But every weekend, I train conjugate. So you have your dynamic effort days and max effort days, and instead of the dynamic, I do my bodybuilding volume throughout the week. And Brandon Ray helps coach me with that. But on the weekends, it's kind of like that. And then it's in my hands, and I go in with my team. And we'll do some super heavy weights with all kinds of different bench variations, different deadlift variations, all kinds of different squats. Like the gym is stocked with ways to do that and really brutalize yourself. So
More structure to your madness, if you
Yes,
allow me to
yes.
call bodybuilding.
Oh, yeah,
it
it's
is,
a
right?
lot of fun over
There's
there.
more structure.
So did
It's
you notice
awesome.
a change as far as like, let's say with the powerlifting, an increase as far as development? Like when
Yes.
you know what I mean? Like,
Oh my gosh.
from switching to that method.
the powerlifting, like slapped the clay on like you would not believe, and I'm so glad.
Okay.
So glad that I found them, because like I was like, well, where am I going to go if I want to do this? And I'd seen this girl at another gym, and she was like the only person I had ever seen that I was like, she might outwork me. Where is she at? And she was at Main Street. It took me about a year to like get myself together, but I was like, okay. After I stepped off the Arnold stage in 2018, 28 days later, I did their first meet there because I wanted them to know before I ever even walked in that I was like, I was there to do business, and I wanted them to take me seriously. So I did their first competition, and then I never left.
Okay.
But the size that came from being under those weights so
Definitely.
often,
Right.
I mean, and I didn't diet at all between 18 and when I went on stage.
That's how you
for
got so much
Warrior
size,
Games
because
was-
it's
So
impressive.
then the reps,
Yes.
how did that change? Because I know for me, like the 15, bodybuilders are always 10, 20 reps. So no problem for you to like do lower reps, higher
Yeah.
weight.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Decrease the volume, increase the intensity. So we would do singles, doubles, or triples.
Okay.
For your first exercise, main exercise after warm up, and then you do a second mechanically similar movement. With something also fairly heavy, but then the rest of it is very similar to bodybuilding, but they're called like accessories, where it's the muscles that you want to hit to build the lift that you just worked on. And like I said, I train conjugate, so if anybody's interested in kind of seeing how that works, they can look up the West Side method, which I'm also certified in. So
Wow.
I'm really
Expert.
impressed with how you backed up the muscles with the strength behind. So that's
Right.
beautiful.
it's hardcore.
Yeah.
I belong there. This this gym is.
And this is
East
just
Side,
a confirmation
warehouse.
that the way you train and the science behind training.
Oh, yeah, very
what it
methodical
means,
approach.
Size, repetitions, all of that really truly matters.
They complement each other
They
so
really do.
well.
Well,
Yeah.
well, when I'm listening to you and I'm hearing you, you know, like bodybuilders, we have to be quite precise in what we do. But you took it even a step farther and being extremely methodical in everything. Everything that you did in your bodybuilding and powerlifting universe has a meaning. It's not like I'm just gonna eat this or I'm just gonna do that. Everything has a meaning, and I love the focused approach that you took. That's why
Yes.
it took you where you are.
It was
I wanna-
another level of like where can I take this, and that was really exciting for me to find.
You use the power of your brain, right?
Well, I think it was
Instead
all
of
heart,
letting
really.
it-
I don't know how much
yes.
thinking I was doing. I just knew, like that was another intuition thing where I'm like, I don't know anybody at this gym. I just have to go and I have to join. And like I said, I never left.
Smart athlete.
You
Smart
integrated
athlete.
beautifully all this knowledge. And talking about integration, I want to talk fast forward to 2021. Last year, right, you turned pro in 2020, and then you didn't make your pro debut in 2021. And I know that you had some hindrances that year. Would you want to talk about it? Because I think it was a big episode of your life, right?
Yeah, without explaining some of this, I don't think that the competition that I've just completed would have as much meaning to the people who saw me win it. After my pro win, things just started going wrong. I had no appetite, and because of that, I wasn't gaining any weight. I was completely food averted. And I was having the craziest part was I was having these episodes that were completely they would take me down. I mean, like, what's the word?
It would paralyze you.
Incapacitated.
Okay,
is
yeah.
the word I'm looking for. So, I mean, at first it kind of started off small, and I thought I was just having a bad day because like
So
you've
you
just
would wait. How would
competed.
you feel? You would wake up, and what would happen?
I would usually kind of be okay in the morning. Like sometimes I'd have that feeling of dread because maybe something had happened yesterday. I wouldn't be sure like if I could make it to the gym, but it was I cannot
physical.
really explain what
you'd
had happened
feel
because I
weak?
don't have any medical proof of what had happened, and I've been through a boatload of tests. I mean, I was at 3 doctors in one day at one time to try and figure out what was happening, but it was like I would suddenly be very weak. I'd be kind of sweaty. I would lose my breath, and I would not be able to. It's like these are the signs that something is about to happen.
So you have the feeling like something dreadful something bad is coming your way, or
It
it's going to
wasn't
happen
even
to
like
you.
dread. It's like if you could be in the supermarket and you're like looking at 2 bottles of mustard, and then all of a sudden your heart is like missing a few beats.
Oh.
And like you feel like an elevator drop in your body, and you're not doing anything. You're just minding your own business.
So what would you do in this kind of situations?
That depended on the day. I mean, I did everything that I could do. I mean, I would usually try to get home as quickly as I could because there were a lot of really hard drives home, like just kind of white knuckling because like I've got these sensations. I'm not anxious. I'm not having a panic attack because I've got plenty of, experience with that, plenty. And I'm like, I cannot tell people that this is anxiety. This is something else. I have to tell like my family, like I'm telling my doctors, I'm telling my coaches, but I never talked about it. So it was extremely isolating.
Did they figure out eventually
No.
what there was, or?
No, that was about 6 months of just awful.
So you would be
Yeah.
like, you would get home after one of these episodes, let's say from the gym or from the supermarket, and you would lay on the couch and
It was pretty much.
what would you?
Yeah, like sometimes I would try to distract myself, but you're so weak, you don't even want to like hold your phone, and your heart is kind of, or your chest feels like it's, there's something just so wrong that like I would just kind of lay on the couch, or I would go back to bed, which I never do. Like I am not a bedtime person. I'm always up. I'm always going. Like I'm always doing something. But I would just lay down and breathe and practice every single mental technique I had ever learned or had ever come across, and tried to find more just to bring anything positive into myself, because I like, not to avoid it, but it was just such a unexplainable incapacitation that I would just kind of stop everything, and sometimes I would be there like just hanging on for whatever I could for like 8 hours.
Wow.
And I can't explain it to anybody, unless, I don't know if anyone's ever been through something similar, but it was about 6 months.
I have not heard of anything like that.
You know, and it would happen
It
like
sounds terrible.
every couple of days, sometimes every day, sometimes I would have a good week.
Last year.
This was 2021.
21.
So the first 6 months, and I was still trying to train every day.
Sure.
Like sometimes I would go and I would get a little bit of arms in, and then I'd have to go home, but at least I tried. But it was starting to get to me, because I'm like, I'm not gaining weight. I can hardly eat. Like my sleep is off. You know, I mean, I'm 4 months out from the show, and I'm still 2 pounds over my stage weight. Like, not even accidental weight gains. I don't know. But the rest of the 6 months of 2021 was like, I was kind of improving.
Yeah, how did you get out
back
of it?
on my feet?
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you what changed. I still don't know. And I mean, it still happens from time to time, but it was definitely not what it had been. And by that time, I'm like, my whole pro year is gone. It felt to me like it was gone. And I mean, I feel like you have sometimes heard stories of people where like they're at the peak of their athletic career, and then something happens. And I'm like, oh man, like if you don't think this can happen to you, it can happen. It happened to me. And it was pretty much by the end of that year that I'm like, I have made no progress. I know that some of this is out of my hands, and I've done everything that I can to get myself back on track, but that's when I called Brandon. And we started working, and he would probably say that, you know, I was very unstable about, I wanted to believe in myself, and I knew I had it in me, but I was like, I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know if I can complete a prep. I don't know if he's going to keep me on as a client, if I can't explain.
What point did you decide out? Because I feel like when you go to a trainer and you take off this project, like at what point did you decide that, okay, I really want to take this challenge on? And because probably this is what pulled you out, right?
I'm sorry?
By the way you describe, this is what pulled you out.
Yes.
Right? Making a new commitment and setting a new goal.
Well, I had to train. Like, this is the thing that had kept me alive all of these years, that had kept me honest, good, and had rewarded me with, I had been so loyal to it that it was like, I almost felt like that loyalty was like being challenged or almost even broken, because I'm like, I don't know if I can even train. I don't know if I can get ready for a show. Like, what's going to happen next? I didn't know. Yeah. But I'm like, I have to train.
I think this is just,
to do this.
For me, it's like a perfect example of like, you have to, this whole process that we go through, it's mental and physical. You know,
it's a spirit.
And it's really
this
easy.
Was a spiritual journey to the Chicago.
It really is, and it's easy to try
doubt.
to think you can go to a trainer or a coach or a doctor, but at the end of the day, all of us as human beings, we really have to be connected with our bodies and know like when something's off, and ultimately
be honest with yourself.
You are the one that you know what's going on, so that you can communicate it with someone else.
And don't let anybody tell you that it's not what you know it is.
Right.
That was hard. You know, because you're like, oh, I would love to believe you that it might be this thing, but I'm telling you, you know, and like you've got to like stick up for yourself sometimes and advocate for yourself.
And it's a message out there to people that it's not, everything looks perfect. They think like this happened in 21. You just won the Chicago Pro in 22, so it's not
see the picture.
easy.
That's
what's really amazing is that you pulled that off through what was going on.
Absolutely amazing. So how did you get there? Like, did you get in that point where you focused so much on bodybuilding, and then it was your salvation and pulling you farther up to that point? What did you picture? How did you do it between 21 and 22?
I knew, I mean, I have been loyal to this thing. It has saved my life so many times that I actually went on Edge of Mind podcast and talked a little bit about how 2021 went. And at the end of the podcast, I had this realization that I don't get to know how this is going to end. Like I simply have to live my life and go after the thing that I love with everything that I have, no matter what. And I've faced every fear, the darkest fears of that I have since, you know, maybe my younger years, and not knowing how that was going to go. But it was, you know, we started slow, and he had a couple of shows in mind for me, and I just wasn't ready. I you know, and then we ended up with Chicago, and I finally was like, yeah. But I didn't know how big Chicago was. I didn't know how.
But did you realize how good you're getting as you were prepping for Chicago? Did you realize something's happening there?
I felt like I had the momentum that I needed, and that slowly, like it was the momentum was carrying me into a little bit of like feeling like I could do it. And I was seeing what I wanted to see, and that saved me very much to see the progress that I had been missing for months and months. And I'm like, you never quit. You faced all of this. And that's kind of another reason why I kind of went underground a little bit before the show, because I'm like, this is going to take all of my focus. As much as I want to post, like I can't even be distracted. Like I have to save as much energy as I possibly can and put it back into this, because I'm trusting it. I'm trusting myself and my decisions to get out of this, and it could not have paid off greater.
Yeah, you did a great
emotionally,
job
spiritually.
You did
everything.
amazing.
It was an
you
amazing
on stage,
showing. Amazing.
Your presentation. I mean, everything. Your muscularity, the way you presented it to us. Your flow was amazing, and it's just an example of perfection, and that you're a champion, and that you belong on the Olympia stage without question.
It is a beautiful realization, you know, when you all of a sudden wake up and you realize that I turned pro, I won my first pro show, and I'm going to the Olympia in the first pro year. It's got to feel beautiful, right?
It's unbelievable, because I was supposed to do the Chicago Pro and then the Olympia Amateur in 2020. Everything changed. And then like out of magic, like out of just the amount of what the universe has put in front of me that says, you're on the right path, you're on the right path. Well, let me like duplicate this for you in a way that you never saw coming. And now to go to the Olympia as a professional athlete, as an invited athlete, is, you know, and it's like I knew I was going to go.
That's
something
amazing.
told me I knew I was going to go.
Well, in the end, I would like to hear what kind of advice do you have for women that, you know, deal with a lot of difficulties in life? Because there's a lot of people dealing with, you know, a lot of addictions and, you know, bad self-image and so on and so forth. As I see, bodybuilding was your salvation in a situation where it was very difficult. So I know that it has a very strong personal importance to you. So if you want to share your advice with our followers?
I would say listen to your instincts, and if you are struggling, you have to find the thing that is going to pull your spirit out of you. You have to feed your spirit itself, and it's going to take a lot of big decisions to do that, because it's not going to be handed to you. You literally have to fight for the thing that's going to save you, and you have to, you know, just find out what that thing is that calls you, and don't worry about the rest, because there's something. If you can't stop thinking about it, like I couldn't stop thinking about, you know, maybe competing, and like for a year I bounced it around, and I just couldn't get it out of my head. I'm like, there's something there that's telling you to go into this and go for it, that there's something inside it for you. So if that is one way to start building the strength that can like change your life, I think that's it. If there's something on your mind, if it's lifting, that's great, because I can relate with that. But it doesn't have to be. It just has to call you. You need to travel, you know, whatever it is.
It's beautiful. Thank you so much for sending this message to our followers, for sharing your story with us, which is extremely inspirational. And we really appreciate that you are so honest and, genuine and also vulnerable. I do believe that there is a lot of strength in vulnerability, and then a lot of people out there will relate and will get that inspiration and motivation that they need from you.
I hope so.
Yeah, thank
I
you.
hope so.
Thank you, Angie.
Thank you.
And it was a pleasure to have you here. And guys, we'll see you on our next episode of FemFlex Friday.